Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another Kano. No, this is not Tryharding Modern. I've done that for like the last two videos. This is Mad Meta Magic, where we try to make the Magic meta mad. Now, yeah, we're playing a Coffers deck, but this is more Mad Meta, I think. I've splashed green and I'm playing a bunch of ramp to try and power out an absolutely massive Torment of Hailfire as quickly as possible. Now, in order to do that, we have Grazer on turn 1, we have Farseek on turn 2, we can Sylvan Scrying if we want to get a particular, land like Urborg or Coffers, that helps make that more consistent. We have Cultivate and Search for Tomorrow on turn 3, Search for Tomorrow is also an alternate thing to do on turn 1. And then at the top end, we have Hour of Promise. Hour of Promise can go get like Urborg Coffers or Coffers, and then when we untap, we can just absolutely obliterate our opponent with Torment of Hailfire. Now I know what you're thinking. Kano, why aren't you playing Primetime? Because that's a different deck. Believe me, it is. One of the big problems is double green is going to be somewhat difficult in this deck. Not impossible to get to, but a little bit more difficult. The issue with Primetime is, if we were playing Primetime, I'm almost certain we should be playing Unmarked Grave and Persist, because why not play turn 3 Primetime without ever having to worry about, whether your mana is black or green or whatever, and then just play like a Reanimator version of the deck, which is completely reasonable. A person can do that, but I'm just trying this version for now. So, to help protect this game plan, we have 7 discard spells, 3 Fatal Push in the 1-drop slot. We have 2 Assassin's Trophies and an Abrupt Decay in the 2-drop slot. In the 3-drop slot, we have 2 Maelstrom Pulses. In the 4-drop slot, we have 2 Masterminds acquisitions, so we can either go get a win condition from our sideboard. If Torment of Hailfire is not going to do the trick, we can go get Emrakul. I'm leaving Emrakul in the sideboard, not in the main deck, even though that it's probably a little bit worse if we come up against Mill again, because Cascade decks are running Inevitable Betrayal, and I don't want to be playing any creatures that absolutely matter in the slightest versus that card right now, especially when we don't have to. That's another reason not to play Primetime. Then we have Dark Petition. Somebody just commented, actually, on my YouTube video this morning, saying, hey, Kano, why aren't you playing Dark Petition in any of your lists? The short story is, in most versions of the Coffers Control deck, the Suspend Tutor is better, because you pay 2 mana up front, and then you get whatever your last piece is on like your combo turn, when you're going to cast your big Torment of Hailfire, or when you're going to cast some big game-ending threat. And the difference between paying 2 mana on that turn versus paying 2 mana earlier is a big difference. Also, while this is technically only 2 mana, if you have Spell Mastery, it's a 5 mana upfront cost, which makes it much worse versus counter spells. The only reason we're playing it here is because it's better than the Suspend Tutor in this version of the deck, because this version of the deck makes so much mana at one point in time. We only want to spend 2 mana tutoring, and then go Torment of Hailfire our opponent out of the game. That's the logic. Whether it's good, remains to be seen. We'll find out. So out of the sideboard, to help protect this game plan, we have a Duress, we have a Tribute to Hunger, we have Necromentia, after that card overperformed the last time we played this deck. We have 2 Damnations, a Grave Titan as a way to win the game, Thought Distortion versus Control, another Torment of Hailfire in case we get Surgical or something, 2 Nature's Claim to help support the Maelstrom Pulses, Assassin's Trophies, and Abrupt Decays in removing enchantment and artifact-based threats, and then Emrakul and Besieju, basically for an alternate win condition and a hedge versus control. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take this into a Modern League, and let's see how we do. Alright, round 1, and we're on the draw. I think we can mulligan this. This is effectively a 6-card hand because of 2 Urborgs anyway, and we have no green mana, which is probably going to become a running theme. So if we draw a single land, this hand gets a lot better. So I'm going to put back Dark Petition. If we draw a single non-Coffers land, I should specify. Well, we drew a Farseek. Overgrown Tomb tapped. Pass the turn. There's always the chance my opponent plays Yavi Maya, right? Opponent cracks Misty. Gets a Stomping Ground tapped. They untap. They play a Stomping Ground tapped. We untap. We draw Urborg. Like we were ever worried. Farseek. Let's get Indatha Triome. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play Prismatic Vista and crack it. Getting a Forest. Okay, alright. I am so upset right now and it's not showing on my face. You guys, I have repeatedly brought up the fact that most forms of Coffer's Control are good against Blood Moon. And we have not seen Blood Moon in the metagame for like, I don't know, 20 leagues. Something like that. We've maybe run into it once. This version plays no basic forests, period. And, oh my god, that's probably a mistake because of Blood Moon. But the problem is I didn't prepare for Blood Moon. And this version is way softer to Blood Moon. Like, unreasonably so. Alright. We just have to concede. So bring in Nature's Claim, Necromentia, Duress. And we're gonna go down probably Grazer, a Search for Tomorrow, a Fatal Push, a Dark Petition, and a Thoughtseize. Well, no. Let's run the Thoughtseize and Dark Petition over the other two cards. Let's try like this. We should be able to handle Blood Moon between Duress and then like being ready with an Assassin's Trophy or an Abrupt Decay, something like that. Okay, so I will be keeping. I will not be tapping out on turn 3. We're gonna lead on our tap land, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, and like if we get enough swamps, Blood Moon doesn't actually matter that much. So opponent leads on Utopia Sprawl. Okay. We untap and draw Necromentia. So the plan this turn is to leave up Abrupt Decay. Opponent untaps, plays a mountain. Blood Moon resolves. It then gets decayed. Okay. So now we have to Necromentia Blood Moon. Play Bloodstained Mire, crack Bloodstained Mire, get a swamp, Necromentia, name Blood Moon. Well, they're not holding any, thankfully. However, they are going to cast a Bloodbraid Elf next turn. I don't know if I should have exiled the one in the grave or not, but... Opponent fetches up a Stomping Ground, untapped. Here comes Bloodbraid. Most of the cards they could hit would be bad for us. I think they hit Veil and put it back. We could hit for 3, untap. We draw Fatal Push. So... I'm going to... This is really awkward. Sylvan Scrying for Verdant Catacombs. Play Catacombs. Fetch Overgrown Tomb. Tapped. Fatal Push. Pass the turn. So next turn we can cultivate Farseek and just start getting huge mana, hopefully. Opponent cracks Verdant Catacombs. Gets a forest. 4 mana. 3 mana. They play Seasoned Pyromancer, so they're going to dump 2 cards. They dump Lightning Bolt and Veil of Summer. So I think they're still holding Prismatic Vista, unless this was revealed off of Bloodbraid. I don't actually know. We untap. We draw Overgrown Tomb. So we cultivate, getting Swamp and Swamp. Put a Swamp into play. Then play Swamp, Farseek, get an Overgrown Tomb. Pass the turn. So what we'd really like to draw is Hour of Promise, and then, like, Dark Petition. Maybe I should be playing Increasing Ambition in this version, but I think my opponent's casting Fury. That was also in their hand. Right now, I think the problem is we have more bad top decks than good. Okay. Another Seasoned Pyromancer. Opponent dumps a land, plays a land, goes to combat. They're going to hit us for 4. We go to 11. Untap. We draw Thoughtseize. Not a huge fan of this, but I think I still do have to cast this. It does not change the clock. We're on a 2-turn clock, unless my opponent has a bolt here, which they could, but they dumped the one we knew they had. They didn't cast it. They're still worried about Fury, so take Bolt from them, so we don't die immediately. Play Overgrown Tomb. Yeah, I don't know why my opponent didn't just Bolt in response, because if they did, we would have died. Pass the turn. So now our out is like Mastermind's Acquisition for Damnation, I think, with my opponent actually playing Fury this turn, hopefully. Okay, they play Scavenging Ooze, which is not Fury. They hit us for 6, we go to 3. Okay, we untap. Opponent exiles a creature off of Scavenging Ooze, then passes, we untap. We draw Hour of Promise, but it is far too late, so we concede. That is an unfortunate match 1, but I'll see you guys in match 2. Alright, well, we don't have green mana, but in theory we can draw it, and we do have plays even without green mana. mainly an Inquisition. Opponent leads on City of Brass, that's intimidating, and Sleight of Hand. So this could be the ad nauseam replacement combo, and it would appear that that is exactly what this is. So we take... Ooh, what do we take here? Spoils? Yeah, let's take Spoils. Because Spoils is how they exile their deck. Now, I haven't played this version of the deck, so I don't know if they have more than Thassa's Oracle ways to win, but Necromentia seems like it would be really good against them regardless, especially if we cast more than one. Like, I don't know if they still play Labman, or if they play Jace as like an alternate, we run out of cards, win the game thing. They play a Plains, really hoping to draw green mana. We do not. So play Urborg, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Gemstone Mine. They can tap it as a swamp, so they don't have to actually spend the counters off of it. They suspend Profane Tutor. We draw Thoughtseize. So play Cabal Coffers, Thoughtseize. Take Thassa's Oracle from them, pass the turn. Profane Tutor is ticking down. Really hoping to draw any land at this point. It doesn't even have to be green. Opponent, Serum Visions. So if they draw Thassa's Oracle or another Spoils, we are actually in huge trouble. Because then they can just tutor for the other half and... Oh no, I guess they need Angel's Grace on top of that. Some kind of they can't lose the game effect, because they have more than enough cards in the deck to kill them that way. Alright, well, come on, land. Any land will do. You know, I shouldn't have said any land, because that wasn't actually true. And I think with Hour of Promise and Sylvan Scrying, maybe I should only be playing 2 Urborg. Even though it's critical to most of the powerful hands, like... So I can either Mastermind's Acquisition for Necromentia and try and win that way, or I can Mastermind's Acquisition for a Forest, so I can start Farseeking and do a Torment of Hailfire. Let's go get Necromentia. I'm actually going to look up a list for this deck. So Ad Nauseam in the main deck only wins, at least in the most recent list, they only win with Thassa's Oracle. They have no backup plan. Okay, so take Necromentia. Pass the turn. We'll see if they have it. And I'm pretty sure at least some versions play Unearth, so we need to exile the ones in the grave as well. Opponent plays a Gemstone Mine and passes. We untap and draw Cultivate. Well, kind of locked myself into this now. Opponent has a response. I think it's Ad Nauseam. So what they're going to do is they're going to try and draw as many cards as they can, because without Thassa's Oracle in hand, they will have nothing. But if we Necromentia Thassa's Oracle, then they'll at least get some zombies. But like, we have creature removal, right? So we still name Thassa's Oracle because that's the only way they can win on the spot. Okay, they have to stop. They're playing multiple Ad Nauseams. You can't keep digging. Oh, I guess they could dig to Pact. That's reasonable. I don't know why they're still going, because they flip like anything else and they die. If they're playing more than one Ad Nauseam, they're probably playing 3. Okay. So they got us then. Because they can untap Angel's Grace Spoils Thassa's Oracle. So. Alright. So bringing in Duress, bringing in Necromentia, bringing in Nature's Claim. We're going down on Arboreal Grazers and Sylvan Scrying. Search for Morrow, a Cultivate, and a Dark Petition. And we'll try like this. Alright, I would like to play first. Yeah, I will keep this. Opponent mulligans to 6 cards, so they're probably going for Leyline. Or not. Shock Overgrown Tomb. Thoughtseize. Opponent has Spoils, Sleight of Hand, Angel's Grace, and Profane Tutor. I think we take Angel's Grace, and then we actually take Spoils. Because the way that we lose to this is my opponent casting Spoils for Pact of Negation, and then having Angel's Grace Pact of Negation. Taking Spoils prevents them from doing that. Opponent plays a Dark Slick Shores and a Sleight of Hand. Okay. I guess they didn't have white mana. Yeah, I think that was still correct. The other option was, I guess, Profane Tutor, but... Alright, we untap. We draw Maelstrom Pulse. Play Urborg. Farseek, get Indatha Triome, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. You're probably going to play Dark Slick Shores and then Profane Tutor. Okay. We untap. We draw Cabal Coffers. Play Coffers. Necromentia. Name Thassa's Oracle. They have 1 in hand, so they're going to get a zombie, and they appear to not have any other way to win the game. Okay. So, I think we still end up playing exactly the same. Maybe I even bring in Besiege, because an uncounterable Necromentia seems pretty sweet. I know the tap land's going to screw me if I do. I think we can even cut combo pieces here and just bring, like, some ramp back in for... Grazer actually allows me to turn 2 Necromentia. So I'm going to bring Grazer in, and we'll run it back. Alright, well, this hand won't work. That's a mulligan. This hand will work. I will keep this. We'll put back Fatal Push. And we can either go for the turn 2 Necromentia, or... Alright, this time opponent has Leyline. That is unfortunate, but we do have a bunch of Maelstrom Pulses and Assassin's Trophies and Nature's Claims. We draw Cabal Coffers, play Overgrown Tomb, Grazer, put in Urborg, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Gemstone Mine, we draw Swamp, play Coffers, pass the turn. So we have to kind of hope that our opponent's mulligan to Leyline prevented them from having a good combo hand, which is not really a great game plan. So they're probably casting Unlife here. Yep, there's Unlife. Okay, we need to top deck Nature's Claim pretty much exactly. That is not Nature's Claim. Play a Swamp, pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays a City of Brass. Opponent casts a redundant Leyline of Sanctity, so now we need Maelstrom Pulse. We untap, we draw Maelstrom Pulse, add a bunch of black mana, add green, Maelstrom Pulse, Leyline. If they have a counterspell, they'll use it here. Okay? I could double Inquisition. That should stop them from... Yeah, double Inquisition's actually the safest route here. Triple Angel's Grace. Okay, pass the turn. So the concern there was my opponent had Pact of Negation plus Angel's Grace, which would have let them stay alive. But they can't top deck into an actual win this turn, no matter what combination of cards they had, which is why Necromentia was safe. Or which is why the double Inquisition was safe there. Oh my god! Oh, I'm so angry. I can't even articulate this. It was like they had to not top deck Leyline of Sanctity there. That was the only card they could have had. Alright, give me a Nature's Claim. Give me an Assassin's Trophy. Not a Fatal Push. Pass the turn. Hell, I would even take my Singleton Torment of Hailfire here. Like, that's enraging. Like, it's so unlikely. I could have tried Necromentia, but if they had Packed Angel's Grace, then they're not out of the game, and we probably lose. Okay, we can do this. Let's go get a card. Unfortunately, it can't be Abrupt Decay, which would be uncounterable. We get Nature's Claim. Nature's Claim, Leyline of Sanctity. Play Urborg. Keep the new one. Necromentia. Now, if they've had time to top deck a Pact, I'm going to be so upset. Actually upset. Thank God. Oh. Woo, tutors! Alright, so, our deck didn't win that game, or that match. Necromentia won that match. But it just goes to show you how powerful Memoricide effects are in the current format, so... Alright, I'll see you guys in round 3. League matchmaking has failed twice now. That's concerning. Alright, round 3, and we will be on the play. I'm going to be keeping this hand. Opponent is playing a Lurrus deck, so we are going to lead on Swamp Inquisition. Really hoping this is not Mill. I'm kind of tired of playing against Mill with variations of this deck, but I also have no control over the metagame. So, it is a deck playing multiple Ragavans. Man, if only Chalice of the Void was more playable. The problem is, Chalice of the Void wouldn't do all that much versus an opponent like this. Okay, Fatal Push. Dang. Play Indatha Triome, pass the turn. The good news is most of the cards in our deck are not very good for our opponent. This opponent gets a treasure, they exile Overgrown Tomb. which we wouldn't have minded drawing. Like, extra lands right now would be fine. I think Urborg or a ramp spell would be our best top decks. Opponent cracks Bloodstained Mire for a Watery Grave untapped, and plays Scourge of the Skyclaves. We untap. We draw Sylvan Scrying. So we Sylvan Scrying. Let's get Urborg. Play it. Pass the turn. So Cabal Coffers can allow us to cast Dark Petition, which we could use to get another Cabal Coffers. And then we just try and Torment, unless our opponent has... well, they have 2 Lightning Bolts, so we're probably just actually dead. They put Unholy Heat into the grave. They hit us for 7, which is going to be half our life total. We have no... oh, and they have Inquisition, so they're just going to take Torment, which was our only out. I probably should have conceded in response to this. If we... I'm trying to think if there's anything we could get. Like, if we have Mastermind's Acquisition, Cabal Coffers gets us up to 5 mana. We have no Damnations in the main deck. Dark Petition, we can cast something for 3 mana or less, but there's just nothing in our deck. Okay, so let's just concede. Okay, so versus this deck, I think we have to bring in Damnation. Tribute to Hunger, I think, as well. You know what, I'll even bring in Grave Titan. And let's go ahead and drop a Dark Petition, a couple of Thought Seizes, yeah, let's drop the Thought Seizes, because I really don't want to lose life unless I have to. Yeah, I dislike the Rakdos Ragavan deck, or the Grixis one, or the Dimir one that's just like splashing red for Ragavan, or whatever it is. Ragavan really is, in Modern, at least in the current metagame, it's one of the only answer or die 1-drops I've ever seen. Because like Deathrite Shaman was like an accrue advantage over time, but like you generally had a couple of turns before it could really get going. I would like to play first. Ragavan is, if it connects with you, you lose, because I'm going to start drawing cards. And the decks that I've been playing actually have like somewhat of a better chance versus that deck because I'm going to mulligan this, because like a lot of the cards that we have that they can top deck from our deck are not actually that good for them to cast, because like we have kill spells and we have like weird ramp spells and stuff like that. But so I can't imagine playing a deck with like lightning bolts and having your opponent connect with you and then cast your own lightning bolt. Effectively, like they're playing a deck with 5 lightning bolts in it, or playing a deck with actual 1-drop threats where your opponent connects with Ragavan and exiles it, and then they're like, oh, hey, this looks pretty good, and casts it. And then, like, how do you come back from that, is my question. And I don't know, because I don't play decks like that, and I haven't for a while. Like I would not play any form of... I guess Ragavan kind of replaced Delver, but I was going to say I wouldn't play any form of, like, Delver deck. I'm going to mulligan one more time. Okay, we'll keep this. Put back Acquisition, Acquisition. So, Verdant Catacombs, fetch, shock, Inquisition. Opponent has Death Shadow, Inquisition, Bauble. Take Inquisition, and pass the turn. Opponent untaps. So they're probably going to Scalding Tarn, fetch, shock, Blood Crypt. They bauble. They play Scalding Tarn, and they want to draw whatever their top deck is. We draw Hour of Promise, Verdant Catacombs, fetch, get a Swamp, Farseek. We'll put Indatha Triome into play, pass the turn. Opponent cracks Scalding Tarn for a Blood Crypt untapped. They untap. They're going to shock Watery Grave. They Thought Seize us. They take Hour of Promise. They go to 15. They play Polluted Delta, which lets them lose 1 more life and play a 1/1 Death Shadow. God, I just want 1-drop threats to not be this power level. And we get hit for 3. We draw Overgrown Tomb, so play Overgrown Tomb, pass the turn. I mean, if I draw a Torment of Hailfire and they don't have Stubborn Denial, there's a chance we can actually win, but opponent hits us for 10 and we're dead to Lightning Bolt. We're dead to Temur Battle Rage. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was fun. See you guys in round 4. I guess my complaints about 1-drop threats are really just an extension of my I hate free spells argument. And I understand why they exist, and some free spells are way less egregious than others, but really what I'm complaining about is the critical piece of Magic the Gathering that is what makes it good is the mana system. Both in the diversification of colors and the, like, you have to pay mana for stuff. the fact that the mana is inconsistent and you have to draw it from your deck, despite the fact that that leads to non-games, like where you get mana screwed or mana flooded, it's actually one of the critical pieces that make Magic the Gathering a great game, because it's built-in variance. It's not like Hearthstone or some other system like Kaijudo's system, which was Magic, but like you could discard any card to make a land of that color, because those are too consistent. Every time you play one of those games, the matches are going to play out the same. And Hearthstone, decided to do its own thing with random cards, but like the problem that I have is every single game of Magic the Gathering where you start to circumvent the mana system is when the game gets broken. So like rampant growth and cultivate and stuff like that, those effects are not anywhere near as broken. That's probably the fairest way to cheat the mana system. And then like you have things like rituals, which when you have too many rituals, you just completely circumvent the mana system and it's not fun anymore. Because then you're playing a 6-drop on turn 1 and, F your opponent. Then you have like free spells, which is when your free spells are way too powerful, like when you're casting Gush, which is giving you mana and drawing you cards. And things like that. When you have free spells that are too powerful, you're cheating the mana system and the game is no longer fun. Like if you're reanimating a huge threat on turn 2, if you're putting Grizzlebrand into play on turn 2, or you're neoforming Grizzlebrand into play on turn 2, or you're otherwise cheating a creature out way too early, like the game's no longer a game. There's no, and maybe that's just the nature of like an eternal format and competitive. Like eventually enough design mistakes build up that there's no way to ban all of them without completely butchering the format. And I'm not saying that, like, we should go back to a time when Sheevan Dragon and Crawworm were the threats of choice. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, like, let the games go to turn 5 or 6, They used to say Modern was a turn 4 format, where, like, no instant win combination should exist in Modern prior to turn 4. But that definition was really limiting in that it didn't account for the, how do I say this? It didn't account for, virtual wins, I'll call them. Because like back in that time, people used to complain about Tron because Tron was a virtual win on turn 3 on the play. So like if they played, you would have 2 mana and then your opponent would play a Karn and they would Stone Rain your land and then they would Stone Rain your land and then they would play something else. And so you only ever got to have 1 land. You got to have 2 mana for 1 turn and then you got to have 1 mana for the rest of the game. That's a virtual win. And that happened on turn 3, because if you didn't have an answer on turn 3, you basically lost. And now, it's, if your opponent plays Ragavan on turn 1, and you don't have an answer, there's a really good chance that they just virtually won the game. I've not played a bunch of hyper-interactive, low-mana cost removal decks or anything like that, so maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's just me running into that portion of the metagame. But like, when your opponent Thoughtseizes is your only turn 1 or turn 2 play, then like fetches Shocks, plays a Death Shadow, and has a counterspell for backup, and then you like your other piece of removal gets countered, that's a virtual win to me. I just want the games to go longer, and I don't know if it's possible to print a card into Modern that can make the games go longer, or, that can make the individual match, like games in a match, go longer. I don't think it's possible, because if you print another answer that's a high enough power level to offset these decks, then you're going to make Control oppressive. And then it's going to be like a turn 40 slugfest, because if Control gets to turn 5 and 6, I don't even know if Control's a deck right now. I haven't even looked at the metagame analysis, but I know that like if you let Control get to turn 5 or 6, they can counterspell multiple times every turn until the end of the game, because of Counterspell, Force Negation, Snapcaster Mage. Like, that's already not fun. But now the early turns are not fun. And my counter argument to this is like, well, like, when we had Simian Spirit Guide and you could play Chalice on turn 1 and you could punish decks for playing only 1-drops, that was different. But now we have problems with Cascade decks. Cascade decks that are more powerful than Living End could ever hope to be anymore. And like it used to be like if you could, cycle 3 cards before turn 2 and then Simian Spirit Guide out a Violent Outburst, you won the game because you just put a ton of power into play early, and what is your opponent going to do about that? And now they don't even have to do that. Now they can just like turn 1 Forest, Spirit Guide, Violent Outburst into Crashing Footfall. So Simian Spirit Guide's not the answer, and it shouldn't be unbanned. In fact, I think it would contribute more to the problem now. Despite the fact that I don't think that card should have ever been banned in the first place, with the kind of stuff they allow. And I'm only talking about this because the queue time's going really, really long, and I think this video is going to be short without me ranting in the middle of it. I really think, like, to an extent, I've talked about Master sets and Horizon sets before, and I think the way that they're handling Horizons is a mistake. They need to print more cards that are interesting and not broken into Modern than printing a new 1-drop with a wall of text, or 2 new 1-drops with a wall of text, or a bunch of free spells that are way better than their equivalent. Like, I want to see more, like, weird tribal payoffs, more narrow, powerful cards, rather than just, wow, that's the best 2-drop in that slot in that color. Like, I want to see less of that. I want to see less Douthie Voidwalker, less Dragon's Rage Channeler, way less Ragavan, way less free spells. I want to see stuff like, I don't know, what's a narrow payoff anymore? Reprint Gemhide Sliver, reprint Muscle Sliver, print more Sveljunds. Yeah, that card's broken. It's in the 3-drop slot. Did it make Merfolk tier 1? No. Like, I've ranted enough about this. Let's get back to the games. I hope people agree with me. I hope that maybe I'm in the minority, but I really hope people agree with me. I can tell you what I think the answer should have been. Another Luris deck. All right, so is this going to be Rakdos lose on turn 1? Well, it's Marsh Flats. This could be Hammer Time. It's not likely. Oh, look! I don't have a Fatal Push. Well, Thoughtseize you. Inquisition, Dragon's Rage Channeler, Voidwalker. Take Voidwalker from them. Pass the turn. So now my opponent can Inquisition my only 2 relevant plays for the next 2 turns, while getting an extra mana and dealing damage. How is this fair? Do you just have to, like, play mono removal? I mean, that's kind of what Coffer's Control does, is it plays mono removal. So here comes the Inquisition taking the Farseek, and now we have no plays. Like, none of... except for maybe Ragavan and Dragon's Rage Channeler, because it's arguable. And Dragon's Rage Channeler is definitely the more fair of the 2 cards, in my opinion. It's still really, really strong. Like, I'm not trying to say it's not. But, like, is it just, like, the individual cards are not broken, but the combination of them is too good? Is it just there's enough redundant copies of the strong effects now that, I mean, if you can play 12 Lightning Bolts, and you could play 12 1-mana 3/3s, and you can play 12 Thoughtseize effects, do you need to play anything else? Like, is there even a reason to run Tarmogoyf anymore, or, what was considered to be the best creature in slot for a long period of time? I mean, I saw this with Horizons, and I'm not just saying this because I'm losing, by the way. I'm not trying to rant because I think my deck is good, because I really actually think this deck is kind of garbage. It's just interesting and more of an experiment. So I'm not complaining because I'm losing. If I wanted to win, I would play my opponent's deck. I just don't want to buy Ragavan because I honestly think the card's broken. I kind of want it to be banned. I'm not sure if it's good enough to be banned. I don't really know, and I don't want to be criticized for my opinion of that. But I would prefer cards like this where it's just so obvious of an inclusion to be banned. I really would. I would rather have more incomparable decisions during deck building. I want Luris to be banned too. So let's get Indatha Triome because it's tapped. We untap. We draw Sylvan Scrying. So Sylvan Scrying. Let's go get Cabal Coffers. Play Urborg. Pass the turn. So my ADD's been kicking in, and I've only been like half describing points before jumping to the next one, which is gonna like make me look weird and impatient. But really what I want to see is the way that Wizards should have solved this, especially on Moto, and is something that I don't know why they've never done, because it's such an obvious use of digital magic to me. They've kind of done stuff like this on Arena, but not to the extent necessary for it to be interesting or cool. So Moto has a problem where the old cards become non-valuable when the like set redemptions and stuff rotate out. The way that they could fix that is they could say, all right, instead of block constructed, instead of extended and all of these other weird formats and stuff like that you know existed for a time and then no longer existed when they fell out of favor, instead of just like making a cutoff for a new Pioneer format every 10 years, what they should do is they should say, hey, we have curated, how many sets are in a standard block? Well, it used to be like 4 blocks, 3 sets per block, occasionally 2 sets per block, and then 2 core sets. So what is that, like 12 Magic sets? They should have just like either spun the wheel, picked 12 sets at random from across all of Magic's history, or curated X amount of sets where X is enough to build a full standard format, and said, these are the cards that are legal for the next 4 months in this hypothetical format. We'll call it like Chaos Constructed or something like that. Like, build a deck and try and win. Why don't they do that? You have to have the cards. You can't, like, it's not like they provide the cards for you or anything like that. Because then it makes retaining a collection on Moto more interesting. Like, maybe, I don't know, Vraska's Contempt is the removal spell, the premium removal spell of the format. Maybe Rune Snag is the best counter spell you can get. Maybe Sunscour is the best Wrath you can play. Like, make a format that has interesting choices. Not just, wow, the top 60 cards of the format are the best cards you can play in any individual slot. Play them in some combination with the next best 60 cards. You know? I only have 14 cards in my sideboard. It's just like, here I am trying to make an intelligent argument. Some guy's gonna be like, Kano, you're only playing 14 cards in your sideboard. Do you even Magic? I'm gonna be like, you got me. You just completely invalidated every single point I could possibly make. So we're going to bring in Tribute to Hunger and some Damnations and, like, I don't know, Grave Titan. We're going to cut maybe... You know what? I can't even cut Thoughtseize because I need to cast something on turn 1. Let's go ahead and start cutting expensive cards. Why am I playing expensive cards in a format where my opponent can win on turn 2 just with the combination of cards they play? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't intend for this video to become a rant video. I just, like, realized how sick I am of formats like this. And, like, it's really disheartening. Because every time they release a Horizon set, Master set, sometimes new standard sets, War of the Spark was very much like this. Every time they release a set like that, there's an interesting format for about 10 minutes while people brew, and then it immediately homogenizes on whatever they picked to be the top archetype. Like, Dragon's Rage Channeler and Ragavan, they very clearly were pushing mono red. Or some low to the ground tempo deck. And it used to be Wizards of the Coast for every standard set, or for every Horizon set, or for every... This was even their excuse for why, like, Commander sets were never made Modern legal, why they were only ever Legacy legal. And it was, they do not have the resources to test the eternal formats for changes. They literally just released whatever they wanted and said, we ban it after the fact if we care. You know, if we decide that by our definition, which is arbitrary, nebulous, and never been spelled out, not in a way that they've actually held to, you know, we'll ban it after the fact. And it, like, and now they're releasing cards that are like, why did they even print them? Are you gonna Alpine Moon Cabal Coffers? That's fine. Why are you playing Alpine Moon against me? Why aren't you just casting a threat or a Thoughtseize? Like, I can't do anything. And I play other ramp spells. Like, I don't need Cabal Coffers to win. It's harder, sure. But, like, oh my gosh. Play Overgrown Tomb, pass the turn. Oh yeah, look at what fat lot of good this Grave Titan's gonna do me, by the way. Because they're holding 2 Terminates. They put Luris in their hand. They're gonna hit us for 3. We go to 15. Untap. We draw Bloodstained Mire. We'll play a Swamp. Cast Grave Titan. Make some tokens. The tokens are smaller than their regular creatures. I am so tilted right now. And it's not once again, it's not because my deck is good and like I'm failing. It's because there's no interesting decisions being made, in my opinion. The fact that my opponent is playing Alpine Moon is kind of tilting because I don't even feel like they should have sideboarded that. Like I think that was completely incorrect, and I think I don't even know how to describe that. It's so frustrating because my opponent made an incorrect decision, and a very big one, because they're playing what amounts to a 1-mana do-nothing spell, and they're not going to get punished for it. And really no combination of cards that I would consider playing in this deck could punish them for it. And I don't want to play... I want to play a format where I can use my knowledge to beat my opponent, and I haven't been able to do that in Modern for years. With Cabal Coffers Control, I will say, for the first time in a long time, I actually had a feeling that I was making meaningful decisions. I use Tutors. It's a skill testing deck. I think it's great. And I think in some level, it's doing what I'm wishing, or it's doing the thing that I'm tilted that I can't do right now. But the fact that I'd have to play that deck to have that experience, I don't like. Not in the slightest. So Assassin's Trophy there, Luris. Man, this really turned into a rant video, and I apologize, because I know some people do not like it when I rant. I know a lot, like, there are a group of people that really enjoy it when I just, like, take off and complain about stuff, but I don't think it's the majority of you guys, and I'm really sorry about that. The only reason that I get that way about playing Magic is because Porter, hush. So we're getting Lightning Bolted and Lightning Bolted. So I guess I should have blocked with Grazer, but that bought us a turn, and we did not have any reach. I guess if I had drawn, okay, so if I had blocked with Grazer there, the out was drawing Torment of Hailfire, but there was no way we were winning Game 3 with our opponent on the play. It just wasn't gonna. All right, well, I'll see you guys in round 5. Man, I think this is why, like, I've been using Limited as an excuse. Because it's like, you know, I say the videos are shorter and I need the cards, and all of those might be excuses. It might be that I really don't like playing Constructed anymore and just want to play Cube. But I'm not good enough at Cube and Limited and interesting enough for people to watch. Because like 1/10 of you guys actually watch my Limited videos, comparably. This deck again. So, take Sleight of Hand. Pass the turn. Well, we have Mastermind's Acquisition, so if we can get up to Mastermind's Acquisition Necromentia, we know we win. Opponent plays a Seachrome Coast, which is a card we didn't know they had, so we know their hand. We untap. We draw a Search for Tomorrow. Fetch with Verdant Catacombs. Get an Overgrown Tomb. Suspend Search. Thoughtseize. Take Thassa's Oracle. Pass the turn. But, like, if we win, we're winning because of Necromentia. We're not winning because of the deck that I built. So I'm not even sure this counts. Opponent plays Gemstone Mine, then plays a Phyrexian Unlife. We untap. Search for Tomorrow ticking down. We draw Torment of Hailfire. Play a Swamp. Cultivate. Swamp and Swamp. Put one into play. One in our hand. Pass the turn. So opponent suspends Lotus Bloom. Casts Serum Visions. We know they're still holding one on life. Another Serum Visions. Suspend another Lotus Bloom. We untap. Search for Tomorrow coming off Suspend. Get a Swamp. We draw Abrupt Decay. Play a Swamp. So I have 2 Torment of Hailfires. If I Torment X4, they're going to lose 12. But they don't lose life? Oh my gosh. No matter how much I Torment of Hailfire, as long as they still have a Phyrexian Unlife, they don't lose, because Torment doesn't deal damage. So Consume Spirit in this regard actually makes a little bit of difference. So let's go ahead and get Necromentia and just Abrupt Decay this Unlife so we can force our opponent to play Unlife next turn rather than whatever else they would have. Lotus Bloom's ticking down. Yeah, but I think that's one reason why I've been playing so much Limited. I just need more variety than Constructed can give me right now. Because I'm not going to shell out $500 for a playset of Ragavan when the card is, in my opinion, broken enough that it might warrant banning. Thoughtseize, it was a Pact. Necromentia, name Thassa's Oracle. Okay, opponent scoops. So Necromentia is absolutely coming in. Duress is coming in. Nature's Claim's coming in. Besiege's is going to come in as well. We are going to cut Cultivate, Search for Tomorrow, Hour of Promise, and I'll bring in Thought Distortion, probably over Dark Petition. But try it like this. Alright. This hand would be good if we had mana. Also would be good if we actually had mana. Alright, we'll keep. Put back Dark Petition. Put back Grazer. Opponent starts a Leyline of Sanctity. They play City of Brass. Then they play Serum Visions. Yeah, I really try not to get ranty like this. I generally enjoy Constructed, but I also think that my other point's not invalid about Limited. I just wish more people saw it that way. I'm not good at Limited, so maybe, you know, when I've been known for jank Constructed, I guess it's kind of hard to switch over, right? But play Overgrown Tomb tapped, pass the turn. Lotus Bloom ticking down. If they play any enchantment or artifact, we definitely Nature's Claim it. Okay, we untap. We draw Indatha Triome, play Bloodstained Mire, fetch, get a swamp, Necromentia. They have to have Pact Angel's Grace here. Or Veil, I guess. Veil works too. Okay. It was still correct to try and fire that off basically as fast as possible. Okay, Lotus Bloom ticking down. Opponent plays a tap land. We untap. We draw Verdant Catacombs, cycle, play Verdant, pass the turn. We will be trying to Nature's Claim Lotus Bloom on their upkeep, which if they have Ad Nauseam or Angel's Grace Ad Nauseam, doesn't matter at all. Fetch up Overgrown Tomb. Nature's Claim Lotus Bloom. Okay, opponent casts Angel's Grace. They have Ad Nauseam as well. Okay, they got us. Run it back. I mean, we had to mulligan, so each of those cards that we didn't have in hand could have been hand hate. We would like to play first. We have no removal for Leyline, and we only have a Thoughtseize. I think I am going to mulligan that. Well, we have Thoughtseize Duress, but no green mana. I think we probably need to do this. Even if they do have Leyline, this is still our best bet. We have Assassin's Trophy, we just need to draw a fetch land, or an Overgrown Tomb, or Indatha Triome. Opponent has mulligan to 5. Okay. We kept a hand with Leyline. Lead on Urborg, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Seachrome Coast, Serum Visions. We untap. Draw Maelstrom Pulse, which is another card that would be great if we could cast. Opponent plays City of Brass. This is probably a Pentad Prism. If it is, we are going to be... Yep, okay. We draw Inquisition. Pass the turn. Well, I was hoping we'd draw land, but it's part of that built-in variance I was talking about. I know this is more of a non-game, but pass the turn. Opponent passes. We untap. Draw Inquisition. Pass the turn. Discard. Grazer. Okay, opponent plays Serum Visions. Opponent suspends Profane Tutor. Alright. Well, let's talk about the deck for a minute. Something I haven't done basically all video. Can a deck like this work? Yeah, I actually think it can. Despite the kind of poor showing that happened. We brewed this deck up during our last stream. And I think this version was a little bit better. I definitely put more interaction in this version. Like, versus combo, obviously, Necromentia, super great card. I think if you're playing black and you intend to not beat your opponent on turn 2, you should probably be playing Necromentia in the sideboard. Or Unmoored Ego if you're playing Dimir, or Memricide if you're playing mono black, or some sort of effect like that. I think it's absolutely necessary. This version has a little bit of trouble with running out of cards because our card advantage comes in the form of Farseek, Cultivate, Search for Tomorrow, Hour of Promise, which are not great top decks. The tutors themselves are also a little bit weak because they only fetch 1 card, so maybe that's maybe we need to be playing Increasing Ambition rather than Dark Petition, just to ensure that we can get the right combination of cards in the late game. Unfortunately, I don't think there is a way for us to turbo out enough lands with coffers, at least not with this list. I tried a version prior to this, was playing Explore, and Explore, generally, we didn't have enough lands in hand. It felt like we just couldn't get the right combination of cards. And it feels like we really need an Urborg, we really need a Cabal Coffers, and then we need to somehow get to 5 land and still have, 1 or 2 cards left over. And that seems very difficult to do. If we weren't playing 8 Inquisition Thoughtseize, and like 12 interactive spells, if we were just going like full combo, maybe there's a way to get it to work. But I don't know what that is off the top of my head, and my mind's kind of burned out after this league. If we were playing the regular Cabal Coffers list, I think we would have done a lot better. I think all of those matchups were winnable for that deck specifically. That deck definitely has more game than this one. The basis for this deck does work. Just ramping super hard and tons of black mana. I think it might be a little bit too slow. I'm not sure how exactly to fix it, like I said, because my mind's kind of shot right now. But anyway, sorry for the rant. Except those people that enjoy the rant. I'm not sorry to you guys. I know you like that stuff. I try not to do it. It's just sometimes I get too frustrated. But anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The last few times have been earlier than that. I'm trying to work in another stream, so maybe stream twice a week. I'm not sure when it will be. Yeah. I'm also trying to work in one non-Magic video a week. I think it will be on Friday because that's the day that the stream VOD goes up. But not sure exactly when and if that's going to happen because I'm still kind of compiling my thoughts on what those videos should be. I'm just going to have to do something not Magic related, at least a little bit, to help give me a little bit of break from Magic, because otherwise I'm going to have a lot more videos like this where I just sit down and complain, and I don't think it makes for great content. I would have much rather spent this entire video talking strategy, explaining lines. I'm glad that, like, and I think the match that we won, we didn't even cast Torment of Hailfire, which is frustrating, because generally in a situation like this where I'm playing a jank deck and I know it's a bad deck, if I can get the combo off once, it kind of makes it worth it. You know, like when you're playing like mono boomerangs the deck and you happen to get the right combination of boomerang, wipe away, cryptic command, you draw a card, Tameo, tap their land, and like you just get the the shutdown combo in, and it feels bad for your opponent, but you know, you have to do it one time out of the 12 game league that you played or whatever. Like then it makes it worth it, right? And I think that added to the frustration today. So I really don't like playing jank decks like this that feel like they can only win with sideboard cards, because it just feels like I didn't actually build a deck. I just picked a right card to have in a sideboard. It's the same reason why, like, splashing white in a deck just for sideboard options that completely shut down your opponent doesn't feel like I'm playing whatever my deck is. It feels like I'm playing a blob of cards with a white sideboard that shuts down my opponent. That's just my opinion, though. Anyway, sorry. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of July. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate your support. And if you want to have your guys' names show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon in the description down below. Thank you all so much.